or the Km value of an enzyme. That is something when your cellular enzyme or your plasma enzymes, they encounter something from outside. Now what we are talking about is that depending upon your cell's requirement, that is what your cell is actually requiring, the enzyme's activity would be regulated. Say for example, if you have taken a very rich carbohydrate diet, so your cell will require to store carbohydrate in the form of glycogen. So those enzymes which are of glycogen synthesis pathway would be activated. And those enzymes which are belonging to glycogen degradation pathway would be inactivated. So according to the situation, according to the requirement of your cell, the activity of an enzyme is going to behave differently. That is how your cell will regulate a particular enzyme depending on its need. This is what we are going to study today. Now, for a cell to survive, for a cell to be present in its active form, it is supposed to carry out two important functions. First is that it has to replicate itself. It has to multiply itself. And whatever cells they have completed their life, they are replaced. And when we are calling that they are replaced, this means that they are turned over. Exactly the same amount of cells, they are replaced by the new cells, like your intestinal linings, yet like your hair follicles, they are replaced exactly the one which was existing previously. So that is the cell replicate to carry out a normal turnover. So the older cells are replaced by newer cells. Now, in order to do this whole activity and to sustain a cell, it has to carry out different functions through enzymes. So enzyme does both the things. It helps the cell to survive and it helps the cell to synthesize those compounds which aid in the survival and for the production of energy. And that is the reason that you need them to be regulated so that whatever activity is being carried out, that is carried out in appropriate manner. Neither the overactivity is good nor the underactivity is required. So there should be a balance. That is what is the meaning of regulation. Now, when a cell has its enzyme regulated, your energies and your substrate sources which are in demand for the cell will also be regulated. So if the enzyme regulation is done, we are talking about in terms of activating a particular pathway or slowing down a particular pathway. Like we took an example of glucose. If your system is adequately supplied of glucose, then glycogen breakdown would be slowed down and glycolysis would be activated. So that excess of glucose would be stored and whatever glucose is still there, which is in excess, should be broken down to provide energy. So therefore, if whatever the product is in excess, it is diverted according to the demand. And when it is diverted according to the demand, this is only possible if your enzymes are regulated by your cell. Now, what are the regulatory enzymes? All the enzymes are not regulatory enzymes. In most of the metabolic processes, whether it is a sequence of reaction like your glycolysis, or is it a cycle of reaction like your TCA cycle, whatever it is, there are certain steps which are irreversible steps. And these irreversible steps in a multi-step process are your rate limiting steps. And most of the time you will find out that the first step in a multi-sequence metabolic step is your committed step. And that irreversible step is going to regulate your whole metabolism. Like, for example, in the glycolysis, there are 3 steps which are irreversible. Now, these 3 steps which are irreversible are responsible for the regulation of whole glycolysis. In between, we have those steps which are reversible in nature. So because of the presence of these 3 irreversible steps, glycolysis cannot be reverted back. That means that from pyruvate, you cannot synthesize directly glucose just by the reversal of glycolysis, because in between you are going to encounter these 3 steps which are irreversible in nature, and that helps in the regulation of glycolysis. If there would have been all the steps in a reversible manner, then your enzyme it would be very difficult for the enzyme to sense out whether the process should be from glucose to pyruvate or from pyruvate back to glucose. So these steps, which are irreversible in nature, are those steps which contribute to the regulatory enzymes, and they are committed steps, and the whole metabolic sequence is regulated around those enzymes. Now, what do we mean by a regulation of an enzyme activity? When we talk of an enzyme activity regulation, there are two main types of the regulation that is happening inside a cell. One is known as a short-term regulation, and another is a long-term regulation. Short-term regulation is for those enzymes which are already synthesized by your cell. They are present inside the cell and they have to be regulated. That is, the already existing enzyme needs to be regulated. That is a short-term regulation. And this short-term regulation is activated within the seconds your cell signals for a certain requirement. Second type of regulation is your long-term regulation. Long-term regulation, as the term itself is telling you, that sometimes it takes hours or even days for an enzyme to get activated or suppressed. So this long-term regulation is not on the already synthesized existing enzyme. Rather, it talks about whether to synthesize the enzyme or stop the synthesis. This is what we mean by a long-term regulation कि क्या सेल अब enzyme बनाए या रोक दे, और जो बन चुके हैं उन पे जो रेगुलेशन होता है वो शॉर्ट टर्म रेगुलेशन. So this classification is in two terms, a long term and a short term regulation. And for a short term regulation, there are three categories: allosteric regulation, covalent regulation, and feedback regulation, which is also one of the type of an allosteric regulation. Then we have the long term regulation, which is talked in terms of two things: induction and repression. And as the name itself is telling you, that induction and repression, we talk in terms of genes. So whether to induce the gene for the synthesis of enzyme or to repress the gene for that particular enzyme synthesis. So these are how we classify the regulation. Now, starting with the first short-term regulation, that is your allosteric regulation. Allosteric regulation is possible with those enzymes which have many subunits and they have to be quaternary in structure. In this case, alloster means something other than. So the substrate binding site and the allosteric modulator's binding site. Regulation is taking place with the help of certain compounds, the small compounds which are known as allosters. So their binding site is different from the substrate binding site, and that is why it is known as allosteric regulation, other than something. So since they are quaternary in nature, the substrate binding site and the allosteric site may be on the same polypeptide or it may be different. The allosteric modulator may activate an enzyme or it may slow down the enzyme. Here we are not going to use the term inhibit the enzyme because it's not completely inhibiting its activity. Rather, either it is activating the enzyme or it is slowing down the enzyme. But modulator, whatever it be it, if it is an allosteric regulator, will never be a substrate analog. So no competition for the active site. It is going to bind somewhere else, as we have already discussed, that the substrate binding site and allosteric sites are always different. Now remember all those enzymes which are allosteric enzymes, which are large enzymes, which are quaternary structure enzymes, and they are regulated by allosteric modulation or regulation, do not follow Michaelis and Menton's curve, and therefore they do not obey Michaelis and Menton's equation as well. Now, in that case, if you're going to plot velocity and versus the substrate, the curve is never a rectangular hyperbolic curve. Rather, it is a sigmoidal curve. And this sigmoidity indicates that there is a cooperation between all the four or three or two structures that are forming the quaternary structure. So this is telling you that the allosteric enzymes, they behave in a cooperative manner. every subunit that is forming the complete enzyme is not an isolated individual subunit. Like the curve that you must have studied in your lower classes about the hemoglobin oxygen binding, that was a cooperative curve. In the same way, here also these enzymes, every subunit, they show cooperativity. And that is the reason that it's a sigmoidal curve. So if a question is being asked that draw velocity versus substrate curve for an allosteric enzyme, now your curve will not be rectangular hyperbolic. Rather, it would be sigmoidal. And in presence of an activator, it is going to be positively activated. Activity would be enhanced. In case of a negative modulator, the activity would be lowered down. But it would be lowered. In presence of an inhibitor, which is acting as an allosteric regulator, the activity will not be inhibited, rather it would be lowered down. So this is how the allosteric enzyme behaves for the alloster's binding or the modulator's binding, and how it is going to affect the metabolic reaction. Now, one of the example of an allosteric regulation that is from your syllabus is about a pyrimidine synthesis. Pyrimidine synthesis is initiated with two compounds. One is carbamoyl phosphate that combines with aspartate to form N-carbamoyl aspartate. And in presence of ATPase, that is an enzyme, cytidine triphosphate, here is ultimate product. Aspartate transcarbamylase is the enzyme. ATPase, it is written here. ATPase is for aspartate transcarbamylase. Ultimately, what you form is CTP. A pyrimidine is being synthesized. Now, as soon as the system or your cell has an accumulation of cytidine triphosphate, that goes and attaches with the enzyme aspartate transcarbamylase at a site other than the binding site for carbamyl phosphate and aspartate. So that brings about the inactivity or slowing of activity of this enzyme. Now, if you look here, CTP nowhere resembles carbamyl phosphate and aspartate. It's quite different in the structure. There is no resemblance with this part and this part. So, this is acting as a negative modulator. Now, since the end product of this particular pathway is inhibiting the enzymes aspartate transcarbamylase, this type of allosteric regulation is also known as a feedback inhibition. Now, if your cell is adequately supplied of energy, that is, if ATP is there, large amount of ATP is there. Now, ATP acts as a positive modulator of aspartate transcarbamylase. So, this ATP in this case is a positive modulator. CTP is a negative modulator. And this enzyme is a very large enzyme, and neither CTP nor ATP has any structural homology with these two substrates. So this is an example of an allosteric regulation. Another common example of allosteric regulation is the synthesis of heme. Heme synthesis begins with glycine, an amino acid, a simplest amino acid, and succinyl-CoA, a compound of TCA cycle. When these two compounds, they condense together, they form ALA, that is alpha amino levulinic acid. And the enzyme is ALA synthase. Now, number of reactions goes on, and ultimately the product is heme. This heme, if it accumulates inside the cell, then it gives a signal back to inhibit the enzyme ALA synthase. So this is also an example of allosteric regulation, that the heme, that is one of the compound, is inhibiting or regulating the step which is an irreversible step. A large enzyme is inhibited, and therefore if a signal is given by the cell that now the heme is accumulating, stop the activity of already existing ALA synthase. So your activity is stopped to the extent that it comes to the baseline level. Stopping here does not mean that it becomes zero. It is to the baseline level. It is lower down. Now see, there are a number of compounds which are mentioned, like alcohol intake, number of hormones. One of the hormone is estrogens, drugs, specifically barbiturates. These barbiturates, they act as a positive modulator of ALA synthase. So heme is a negative modulator, and these compounds, they are acting as a positive modulator. So that is another example of an allosteric regulation. And heme synthesis at this level, that is at the level of ALA synthase, is regulated at both short-term as well as long-term regulation. Here we are talking about a short-term regulation through allosteric mode. Now the second type of regulation was your covalent regulation. Now by covalent, what we understand is that some covalent bond would be formed, something would be attached, so that your enzyme's activity would be altered. Now this covalent regulation is of many types, but the most common one that is encountered in the cell is of phosphorylation and ADP ribosylation. Now what happens when we are saying phosphorylation? As we know that enzymes, they are having their active sites, and most of the time the active sites, because they are exposed outside, so they are either made up of polar uncharged amino acids, or they may be made up of charged amino acids. Most of the commonly present polar amino acids could be tyrosine, serine, threonine, histidine, glutamic acid, and all these. So they have a capability of being phosphorylated. Serine and tyrosine are the one that are most commonly phosphorylated, and the enzymes are regulated in that way. Now, it is not always that if the active site is having serine and if the serine's OH group is phosphorylated, enzyme would be activated. There are class of enzymes which upon phosphorylation will become active, and another class of enzyme is there that they upon phosphorylation they become inactive. So that will depend on the type of the enzyme, that some may become active on phosphorylation or some may be inactivated. In the same way, we can take an example of ADP ribosylation. ADP ribosylation is an attachment of ADP ribose residue, and this ADP ribose residue, this comes from NAD+. So this ADP ribose residue is most of the time attached to either arginine or glutamic acid or cysteine residues of number of enzymes or proteins. So because we are talking about specifically enzymes, so we can leave this portion, because here this ADP ribosylation mostly happens in case of certain channel proteins. Just for example, cholera toxin. Cholera toxin has a capability of ADP ribosylating chloride ion channels. So when these chloride ion channels are attached with ATP ribose residue, the channels are activated. And when these channels, membrane channels, they are activated, which are of chloride ion moves out from the cell into the intestinal epithelial cell. Chloride is moved out into the intestinal lumen, and that results in diarrhea. So most of the cases of this deaths that are associated with this cholera are because of diarrheas. Why? Because this chloride toxin has ADP ribosylated these channels, and they have made it completely active. And this activity leads to the loss of minerals. And because of the loss of minerals, the body is compromised. So phosphorylation is most common way of covalent regulation in terms of enzyme activity. Rest, we have adenylation, attachment of an adenine residue, methylation. Methyl residue would be attached to the active site of the protein or an enzyme. So taking an example of covalent regulation, say for example, in a system where your body requires the supply of say glucose. So if your system is facing hypoglycemia, now the hormones that will sense that it is hypoglycemia would be either epinephrine or glucagon, because these are the two hormones that have the sensing of the system to be presented with hypoglycemia. So their receptors would be there over the membrane, and these receptors, they are known as GPCR, because they are attached with a specific protein, that is a G protein. And this G protein has these three subunits that are there, alpha, beta, and gamma. This whole thing you will be studying in detail. But just remember that epinephrine will bind to its receptor. This G protein would be activated. Once it is activated, it will move into the cytosol, attached with an enzyme that is adenylate cyclase. Function of adenylate cyclase is to convert ATP to cyclic AMP, which is a secondary messenger. This was your primary messenger. This was telling you that something in the cell is happening and that something is your hypoglycemia. This message of your primary messenger is transmitted by your secondary messenger, and now this will regulate the enzyme activity through phosphorylations. This cyclic AMP or this secondary messenger is going to activate a class of enzyme that is known as protein kinase A. Now, whenever the term kinase comes, kinases have a function of attaching phosphate residues. So protein kinases, because it's a protein kinase, it will attach phosphate to number of proteins that are there inside your cell menu. And all these proteins will be phosphorylated. Now, out of this, we will be talking about the two glycogen synthase and glycogen phosphorylase. When glycogen synthase is phosphorylated, it becomes inactive. And when glycogen phosphorylase is phosphorylated, it becomes active. As a result of which, glycogen phosphorylase activity would break down glycogen to form glucose, and that glucose will supply energy. And if this whole sequence happens to takes place in your liver, then that will also contribute to the elevation of your blood sugar levels, because your liver has a specific enzyme that has the capability of breaking down glucose 6 phosphate to glucose only, but muscle lacks that enzyme. So this is how your enzymes are activated by the process of phosphorylations. Now, these phosphorylations would activate certain enzyme and certain class may be inactivated. Here we are taking an opposite regulation of glycogen synthase and glycogen phosphorylase. What is happening is that serine residues are just phosphorylated because of the activity of protein kinase. When serine is phosphorylated, structural modulation takes place inside the folding of an enzyme. And these structural modulations bring about activity or inactivity of that particular enzyme. Now, talking about induction and repression. Induction and repression is a long-term regulation. Now, before discussing about the induction and repression, in our system, we have some of the enzymes which are constitutive in nature. Constitutive enzymes are those enzymes where the level is constant to some extent. And certain enzymes, they are not constitutive in nature. Their concentration depends on the requirement of your cell. Like you have constitutive genes and non-constitutive genes in the same way. So we can say for example, if you talk of insulin, insulin gene would be there in every cell. But insulin gene is only active in your beta cells of pancreas. So this insulin gene is repressed in rest of the cells, although it was present there. In the same way, the constitutive enzymes are, the genes for the constitutive enzymes are always active. Their synthesis is always going on, because if their synthesis is diminished, the cell is going to die. Now, in the same way, there are certain genes coding for enzyme proteins which are adaptive in nature. Depending on your cellular requirement, the gene activity could be repressed or it could be induced. So this alteration of induction and repression takes a longer period of time. And this is under the control at the level of gene. So we are talking about the synthesis of a new enzyme protein rather than the activity regulated at the level of already existing enzyme. So this is a long-term regulation. Now we can take an example of this induction and repression. See, we talked about the heme synthesis process. Heme synthesis was taking place in presence of two small components, that was glycine. Heme was in the first step was with the help of an enzyme ALA synthase. Now ALA synthase was capable of synthesizing heme if the system is requiring heme if it is adequately supplied of glycine and succinyl-CoA, and if the number of activators are there. Now, as soon as heme started to accumulate, heme itself went and attached to the ALA synthase that was doing the function, and it blocked its activity to some extent. That was allosteric regulation. The same enzyme is also regulated at the level of induction and repression. So this induction and repression with the help of this structural gene that is for ALA synthase is organized into a whole sequence of this structural gene. Now every structural gene is having an operator sequence, followed by the operator sequence is a promoter sequence, followed by the promoter sequence is a regulator sequence. So this is how the structural gene is organized. Now, when this structural gene is having this same type of components present over it, this is the DNA sequence. This is the DNA part that we are talking about. Now, the function of the structural gene would be to produce a messenger RNA. That messenger RNA is going to code for the enzyme ALA synthase. If everything happens to be in an order, the promoter is the site for the binding of RNA polymerase. Now this this binds to the site of an RNA polymerase. This is an enzyme binding site, and this is going to move up. So this enzyme will be helpful in the process of transcription. Now what it is going to do, that it is going to produce a messenger RNA that will have the coding for this enzyme ALA synthase. Now, in this case, when it is everything is going on normally, and if your cell is requiring heme, then RNA polymerase will bind to the promoter site. It will move in the forward direction, produce the messenger RNA, coding for an ALA synthase, utilizing the substrate glycine and succinyl-CoA, and production of heme will take place. Now, if your heme is adequately supplied inside the cell and it starts accumulating, then what will happen is that if you see at your left hand side, there is a regulator sequence. This regulator sequence would be coding for a messenger RNA that synthesizes small proteins that are known as aporepressors. When we are using the term aporepressor, this means that it is an apo. Aporepressor is incomplete. Now, if your cell is being accumulating heme, then this aporepressor combines with the co-repressor. And this co-repressor is here your accumulated heme. This combination has a binding site at the operator. Now your operator site would be blocked. So if your operator site would be blocked, RNA polymerase cannot move forward. And if this polymerase is not moving forward, the ALA synthase enzyme synthesis would be stopped. So when your enzyme is not present, even if your cell is adequately supplied of glycine and succinyl-CoA, this is not going to produce or synthesize heme. So glycine and succinyl-CoA would be diverted to some other metabolic sequence. So this is what we mean by repression. So here the gene for ALA synthase in presence of your co-repressor combining with already synthesized aporepressor is being repressed. So this is an example of repression. Now the same gene would be induced in presence of number of compounds. Like for example, if a person is continuously taking barbiturates, or if a person is continuously taking, say for example, is on an estrogen therapy, then what will happen? That these compounds, they are tackled by your liver. They are detoxified by your liver. So if your system is taking number of drugs, one of the class of the drug that is a barbituric acid derivatives, they are called as barbiturates. Or if the person is taking some antidepressants, in that case, your liver's detoxification part would be activated. And this detoxification is taking place with the help of a specific type of compound or a protein that is known as cytochrome P450. CYP450. So this cytochrome P450 is a protein that has a heme as its structural component. Now, if a person is being continuously surviving on barbiturates, then your liver's activity for detoxification would be increased, and the liver will produce more and more cytochrome P450. So your cellular requirement, your hepatocytes requirement for heme would be increased. So cells heme would be diverted for the production of cytochrome P450, and therefore the barbiturates are drawing away the co-repressor. When the co-repressor is not available inside the cell, apo-repressor will be left alone. And this way operator site would be free and the structural gene will continue to code for the messenger RNA, transcribe for the messenger RNA for ALA synthase that would be translated to produce the enzyme, and this will continuously lead to the production of heme synthesis. So heme is an example which is regulated at both ends, at the allosteric end as well as at the level of induction and repression. So this is about the regulation of an enzyme activity. Now, this is what we are supposed to discuss today. That's it. And this is a very important topic. So I've left a time so that you can, if you need to discuss something, we can discuss it right now, because most of the time we get a question over this regulation of an enzyme activity. Now, what is confused by a number of questions is that the question may be asked that what are the factors that affect an enzyme activity? Can anybody tell me how to answer that question if it is asked? What are the factors that affect an enzyme activity? Can anybody? This is all for the today's PowerPoint, but we need to have a discussion regarding these three topics. Factors affecting an enzyme activity, one thing. How is an enzyme inhibited? Another thing. How is the enzyme regulated? The third thing. These are the three things that are usually confused when a question is asked in the examination. Now, can anybody tell me what are the factors that affect the enzyme activity?
Ma'am, there could be so many factors.
Just name
Ma'am, some like temperature, pH. These are external factors, and there is some intrinsic factor may also be.
अच्छा, अब जब अगर ये क्वेश्चन पूछा जाए कि व्हाट आर द फैक्टर्स दैट अफेक्ट द एंजाइम एक्टिविटी, तो हमें जो बात करनी होगी और अपना आंसर फॉर्म करना होगा, दैट विल बी अकॉर्डिंग टू द टेम्परेचर, pH, substrate concentration. So this means that they want to ask you that if your enzyme is there, it is present in the cell, synthesized in an active manner, that what are the environmental conditions that is affecting the activity of the already present enzyme. So in that question, you are supposed to discuss about the factors that could result in the decrease or increase in the temperature. अब वो कौन से फैक्टर्स हो सकते हैं जो बॉडी का टेम्परेचर डिक्रीज कर देंगे? जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल इफ इट इज गोइंग टू कॉज से हाइपोथर्मिया, हाइपोथर्मिया कब कब हो सकता है? एक्सट्रीम वेदर कंडीशंस में हो सकता है, और हाइपोथैलेमो पिट्यूटरी एक्सिस डिसऑर्डर्स में हो सकता है, और सीवियर क्रोनिक अल्कोहलिज्म में हो सकता है। उस कंडीशन में हाइपोथर्मिया में भी एंजाइम एक्टिविटी डिक्लाइन करेगी। हाइपरथर्मिया कब हो सकता है? हाइपरथर्मिया कब हो सकता है? जबकि कोई एंटी डिप्रेसेंट ड्रग्स ली जा रही हो फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम। देन इन केस ऑफ से एक्सट्रीम ह्यूमिड एंड हॉट कंडीशंस, जो इंडिया में बहुत कॉमन होता है, जिसे क्या कहते हैं कि लू लग गई, तो if it is extreme and if it is prolonged, then it may lead to compromise to certain extent, but your system is very well capable of quickly overcoming it. So that is, we don't usually face such situations. Then there are number of anesthetic drugs like halothane. In some people, not all, in some people, number of anesthetic compounds are not very well metabolized. So that results in malignant hyperthermia. That is also one of the condition, and there the system is compromised. but that is genetic. It's not in every individual. So उसके केस में हम क्या करेंगे, बेल शेप कर्व बनाएंगे, कुछ दो कंडीशंस मेंशन करेंगे, ये बताएंगे कि पहले जो इंक्रीमेंट होता है वो इसलिए क्योंकि एक्टिविटी ऑप्टिमम पे पहुंचती है, वो इसलिए पहुंचती है क्योंकि हमें एक एनर्जी प्रोवाइड की जा रही है. Decline part after the optimum is telling you that the protein is denatured in human system after 50 degree. Denaturation is initiated and that cannot be reverted back. दूसरा था pH. pH will be discussed in terms of naming the enzyme. जैसे amylase, the amylase is active at pH 7. So you have to name the enzyme and draw a plot according to the enzyme. अब pH चेंजेस कैसे हो सकते हैं, pH के कॉजेस होते हैं pH चेंजेस के, जैसे रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस हो सकता है. रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस कुड बी बिकॉज ऑफ से फॉर एग्जांपल chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. It could be because of septicemia. Metabolic acidosis के causes जो बहुत common है वो lactic acidosis, diabetic ketoacidosis. तो pH change हो रहा है body का. इसी तरह से respiratory alkalosis could be because of hyperventilations or it could be because of hysteria. Metabolic causes भी हो सकते हैं alkalosis के, से severe vomiting, potassium loss, diuretic therapy. तो कुछ जो भी acid base imbalances हैं that could be the cause for the compromise. अब substrate ऐसे factor बनेगा, substrate ऐसे factor बन जाता है कि the more and more you provide the substrate, the more the enzyme's active site would be binding to the substrate, the more product would be formed. But a stage comes that if your enzyme is limited, there is an attainment of saturation, and that is represented on the Michaelis-Menton's plateau, that it indicates that enzymes' active sites are now saturated. And that was the reason that we shifted to Lineweaver-Burke's plot, because we have to study the drug kinetics, inhibitor kinetics. So that plot was not very good. ये बात होती है factors that affect the enzyme activity. Now if a question is asked that what is an enzyme inhibition, तब क्या बताएंगे? कोई और बताया आफरीन के अलावा? What is enzyme inhibition? Muinuddin? Are you people there or you have just connected and left the place? Muinuddin is there? Mohammad Shahnawaz? See, the course that has been completed through online will not be repeated. And the enzyme part is very important.
Ma'am, inhibition, it reduces the activity of enzyme. It could be of different types like reversible or irreversible and competitive, uncompetitive.
ठीक है,
And
very
we can describe them along with the Lineweaver-Burke's equation.
Yes. So if a question is asked, say for example, जो बहुत दफा पूछते हैं कि what do you mean, say for example, by a competitive inhibition? Just an example, and give examples and write down about the kinetic properties of an enzyme in presence of that inhibitor. Now, in that case, you are supposed to define the properties of a competitive inhibition, that was a substrate analog, it was competing with the substrate. Then you need to write down the equation, that what was the change that was brought about. Write down the first, this is the Lineweaver-Burke's equation. Then indicate that whether the velocity is changing or not, whether the Km is changing or not. In case of competitive inhibition, the Km is increased. So you have to indicate it by multiplying it with a factor 1 plus I over Ki. Vmax remains the same here. So that will be the equation that is required. So you need to mention few things when the question is asked, because this is a type of a mathematical type of question and you can fetch the whole marks out of it. क्योंकि ये बहुत theoretical type नहीं है. पूरे marks मिल जाते हैं provided that you define what is the type of inhibitor, what are the conditions, write down the equation, draw the plot, locate the plot on its axis, locate the slope, locate the intercepts, and mention at least 2 examples. That is what the examiner wants you to write it down. Writing down the long, lengthy paragraphs will is not going to help you out. चाहे आप आधे पेज में इसे बना दीजिए, अगर वो 6 नंबर का क्वेश्चन भी होगा और आपने सारी चीजें लिखी हैं, तो the person is going to straight away give you the full marks, because nobody is going to read lengthy paragraphs in this case. अब हम बात करते हैं, इनहिबिशन हो गया. अब जो क्वेश्चन पूछे, अगर थर्ड क्वेश्चन ये पूछा जाए that how the enzyme is regulated inside your cell in a long term activity, तब हम बात करेंगे इंडक्शन और रिप्रेशन. और अगर ये पूछें कि what is the type of regulation that takes place in the already existing enzyme, then we will talk about the short term regulation, which is either allosteric or covalent, or you talk about a feedback regulation. So regulation is the cell's own mechanism of controlling the activity, whereas inhibition is most of the time coming from outside. The reason is that although the cell has the capability of synthesizing number of inhibitors, but these inhibitors has a particular site for its activity. Some may act inside the cell, some may act inside the organelle, some may be acting inside the serum. So most of the time, these inhibitors, which are very small components synthesized by the cell, they do not bring about major changes. Major changes are brought at the level of regulation. These are 3 different topics asked differently, so there should not be any confusion between inhibition and regulation and the factors that affect the activity. Now, from the coming turn, we'll be starting with the clinical enzymology. This is all about the enzyme kinetics. Anything